back to All Things Boss Babe podcast. I am so excited to have Shana Francesca here with us today. She is such an inspiration to me and has been an inspiration to many, many people. She's a life coach, life designer, which is really cool. And I'm really excited to have her here to share with us today, why she got started in this and some of her experience and some really great keys I think we can all learn from today. So Shana, thank you so much for being here. It's great
Thanks,
to have.
Ashley. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here because life design is it's a different field, but something that we all need because we're trained so much to think inside the box that we've been taught, right? And so a lot of times that's not correct. And it's so weird to think that what you've been trained from the time you were a child to now may be not
So,
correct.
right. Yeah. It
Exactly.
may be all propaganda.
Exactly.
It may have absolutely nothing to do with who we are, our like genuinely who we are individually. And it
Yes.
and it creates this weird collective reality that we're all supposed to fit into these specific boxes. And it's just not good. It's not good.
It's not, and it's really kind of hard to retrain your brain to do that, and that's what
Yes.
you work with, and you've
Yeah.
got some great resources out there. We're going to talk about this in a little bit. We'll show you the website. We'll also show some classes that you got coming up and everything.
Yeah.
But first off, I just wanted to welcome you to the stage here, let you talk about how you got into this and
Mhm.
how you got started in this field and why life design.
Yeah.
So take it away and tell us about
Yeah.
that.
Oh boy, buckle up. So, my early life was defined significantly by trauma. I was my earliest memory is of sexual assault, and grew up in a cult. I now understand it to be a cult, and very strict sect of Christianity, of evangelical Christianity, and and between that, like the dominance of religion and the abuse at home, it was a 1-2 punch. And then at the age of 5, I was diagnosed with ADHD, which many believe to be a result of trauma. It creates a separation between your frontal lobe and the rest of your brain. So the doing part of your brain is separated from the knowing part. So neurodivergent people tend to be highly intelligent, but not great doers. we have to learn a lot of systems, create a lot of systems in our life to get the doing part to do its part. But back then I thought myself to be handicapped. And so really, the world I existed in was one that didn't understand me, didn't strive to understand me or be connected to me. I really didn't see anyone around me whose life I wanted, like in any way, shape, or form. And it felt all disconnected from who I knew myself to be. And for a really long time, I tried to fit myself in all the boxes that were dictated to me. And I was just failing so miserably because even though I was succeeding, I became good at it. Inside, I felt miserable. Um, and so somewhere around my early teen years, my youth, like 11, 12, things were really kind of coming to a head in my life. I was trying to assert some independence. I realized that was a bad plan in an abusive household. And I started just really letting my imagination take me places. I started collecting like J.C. Penney catalogs, and that would come in the mail, and I would circle all the things that I was creating my new life with. It became now we call it vision boarding, right? But like I was using this J.C. Penney catalog as a vision board. I was circling all these things and dog-earing the pages so I could quickly flip through and like, no, this is the life I'm creating. This is what's possible. And I didn't know if it was really possible, but I knew, but deep down I knew it had to be possible. Otherwise, I wasn't really sure what I was here for. Like, why did I exist, right? If I couldn't live a life that actually brought me some kind of joy. And my imagination became this refuge. And every time something really difficult would happen in our household, I started noticing this pattern of behavior in that I would organize something. I would dive into my imagination. I would reorganize the house or my bedroom. I would change the furniture around. And it was like I was breaking my association with what was. and setting a stage for a new reality. I was using my bedroom like a stage. And I now know that we spend 2/3 of our life inside of our home, typically. And so our home becomes this place that is a direct reflection of our beliefs about ourselves. And it really can serve as the stage from which we tell the story of our life, the place we gather with friends, the place we prepare for our day, the place that we accomplish things and we connect with our partners or our children, or, all these different places. It's the like the seed, the birthplace of community in our individual lives. Um, and I started to kind of put that together and understand how I was crafting my own physical environment. And I then discovered that interior design was a thing. And I started out my career and spent the last 17 years as an interior designer. Um, but somewhere along the way, I started to recognize that the concepts around that I was using around interior design, that I was using implementing with my clients, was much more powerful than being just an interior designer. Because the way I work with my clients, even now still, is that we sit down and we have a conversation, and I get to know who they are, what lights up their life, what brings them joy. It might be that they love traveling, and I can see all this different art and all these things they've collected, or I can see that, like, the kitchen is the place where like so much happens. There's a lot you can tell when you enter into someone's life through their home. And we would sit down and talk about the story they want their life to tell. Whether I, used that specific language or not, it was really me getting at the heart of what do they want their life to look like? What do they want? How they wanted it to unfold? And then how could I craft an environment that directly reflected who they were at their core and supported their journey? It became the stage from which they told that story, the story of how their life is going to unfold from here on out. And then about 4 years ago, I started doing group coaching around these concepts, right? And the group coaching had nothing to do with interior design. It was around designing your life. I didn't use that language yet, but that's what it became. And after working with about 100 people over 2.5 years, I started to realize, wait a second, I think I've tapped into something here. And the group is like 50% female identifying and 50% male identifying, and racially, ethnically diverse. And I was like, this seems to be really tapping a nerve and really be powerful for all kinds of people. And I think I need to run with that. I think this is what I'm really meant to be running with. And I finally gave myself permission to just do it, to just go for it. And so over the last 4 years, I've been working with people, focusing on life design and recognizing that design is a function of intention. The minute we apply an intention to something, we start designing it. We start creating from a place of intention.
I love that. And it's so true because as soon as you start to, if you create a space where it, like what you're talking about, creating that space in your mind, that was that safe place, that kind of almost the disassociation where you're creating that space for yourself that is happy and has the vibes that you want in your life, and creating your own life. And whether or not you're doing it in a catalog or mentally doing it, that whole storyboarding thing, it's happening. And
Yes.
a lot of it comes with energies and things like that. And
Yes.
it's amazing how much like the people that you're around and everything that can be a part of this can tie into it.
Yes.
And it's interesting because I know you're going to talk about this too, is like everything that goes into creating that world that you want to be in, no matter what you're in currently,
Yeah.
what does your world want to be in the future? And what does that look like to get to there? And it's oh man, I just like my heart breaks for you when I hear that story too in the beginning. Just it's it brings like some things back, and it's definitely hits home. And I know it hits home for a lot of people that are listening today too, because abuse is one of the things that is so prevalent in the nation. I mean, over 10 million people a year die in the US alone from it. So it's
Yes.
just one of those things that's just such a pandemic. And what do you do when you're in those situations? And you are able to basically save yourself through creating your own environment and
Yeah.
getting out of that too, and I just, I applaud you for that. I think that's absolutely amazing, and I really am excited about the business that you created and how
Yeah.
it ties into interior design. It's just such a cool. I love interior design.
Yeah.
I used to work
So
with
do
Pure.
I.
Worked with Pure One back in the day, which is
Mhm.
obviously no longer, but it's just such a um, great store, and it was a lot of fun to be able to help, decorate. That's the decorating
Yeah.
side. It's not really the design side. So it was just cool to be able to help people find their vibes and what
Yes.
they made them light up, like what you said, something that made them feel like it was their place, it was their home, it was what they wanted to feel. And
Yes.
it's amazing how important that is.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
how it really goes into your energy and your overall mood and
Yeah.
how your family feels, how people feel when
Yeah.
they come to visit.
Yeah.
It's so huge.
Yeah, it's really, yeah, I say this to people all the time. It's really important that we remember that there are no rules.
Yeah.
If we don't like, the only rules that exist are rules are the things we give power to. If we don't give it power, we don't give it credence, and we don't give it space in our life, then there is no power, there is no rule, right? And it's our home. It's our home. It's our place. We do not have to follow the dictates of society, of our mother, of our siblings, our aunts, or any of those things. Yes, our connection to those people is important, but our connection to ourself is the basis of all of our relationships. And when we truly connect to ourself in our own home and let who we truly are take up space in our own home, then we start to learn how to set healthy boundaries and create healthy relationships. Because at first, because especially as women, we are not allowed to set boundaries. We are taught not to set boundaries. We are taught to not have them, that having them will keep us from getting married, having kids, all the things, as if those are the only options for us. When we learn to start setting healthy boundaries, we start to see the places in which these things that we've been told we must, these boxes we've been told we must put ourselves in, they start to fall away. They stop having power. They stop having a place in our life. And we start being able to take up space. Our hopes and our dreams get to start taking up space, right? Um, and it's such a beautiful transition that happens when we just like breathe into and let ourselves feel all the things and just be in our own home, whatever that looks like. One of the people that I work with, when she bought a new home, so she does some of my marketing. And when she and her husband bought a new home, they decided, and her and I had this whole conversation about it. She's like, I think I'm just going to put a sculpture in my living room, this beautiful sculpture of this juggler. And I was like, yes. And it's just opposite of a fireplace. And it's the only thing in the room is this beauty, because you come in um, right next, like you come in and there's like a little like entry area, and then it opens up to this particular living area, and there's just this beautiful sculpture, and that's
Wow.
it. That's all that's in the room. And then she's got another room where she uses for dancing that would typically be called the dining room. There's no furniture in there. There's just a pole in the middle of the room. Right. um
Love
and
it.
I love that she just turned all these societal expectations on their head. She's like, that's not a dining room. That's my room for dancing.
Yeah.
That's not a living room. That's a room for movement, for sculpture, for beauty, for creativity, for art. And they have other spaces where they can gather and they have furniture. That's the kind of thing what I say to people all the time is whatever you do the most of in your room, in your house, that main room, that beautiful room that gets all the best sunlight and the best breezes, and that room, that should be where you get to do those things. If you do a ton of yoga, or you and your family, spend a lot of time doing board games or whatever it is, that room, wherever it is in your house, that's the room where those things should take place. No matter what anybody else thinks, doesn't matter, because they live in their own house. They get to make up the rules in their own house. We make up the rules in our house, in our lives.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right, and it's not just for decoration. It's so interesting because there's the classifications of decoration, right? You
Mhm.
got the modern, you got the rustic, you got the farm style or whatever, and then you have people that come in and they just want a combination of all of it, and you're just like,
It's
well,
eclectic.
if you were sticking to these categories, I don't know how to help you because you have to stick to those categories. Like, no, you've got so many options here, and that's a really hard thing, and like, I'd love for you to share with us, like, how you work on creating breakthroughs for all those boundaries that we've been taught,
Yeah,
from being a mother and getting taught that your kid's not gonna be successful unless they have A's, B, and C,
right.
or from being a child growing up and saying, "Well, you have to be respectful of your parents and believe everything that
Yeah,
they tell you," and blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
That's oh, it's awful. Or, like you were talking about with women, the whole the whole prospect of you're only
yeah.
anything as a woman if you're a sexual icon, or if you're making babies at home, but the guys aren't going to be interested in you at that point because you're going to stretch marks and have gained 5 pounds. Like it's
Only 5 pounds? Probably more than 5 pounds.
right, exactly.
Really 25 and up, yeah.
Exactly. And, and you're not considered cool anymore because you're not
Yeah,
that young hot thing that can run
yeah.
around and
Yeah, and
you
that's the well, that's the difficult thing that patriarchy teaches men, and I
yeah,
talk about that too, is that patriarchy limits a man's ability to be a human being,
yeah,
right? It absolutely objectifies and dehumanizes men
so
to the
true.
point that they don't even see and villainizes femininity and anything that they associate or anyone associates with femininity, to the point that men actually are taught to hate women,
So true.
to be sexually attracted to, but to hate women.
So
And so
true.
there's this dichotomy in their lives that existed, such disconnected. There's such disconnection from themselves and from 50% of the population. And there's so many beautiful, amazing men who are doing work around this and deconstructing their ideas and and really working through healing so that they can actually connect to and be connected to and a safe, respected space for women. And I love that, but I really want it for more men, because we as women, we love men and we want to be connected to our partners,
Right.
but patriarchy teaches them that they can't do that. Not
Yeah.
really. Not really. And their bros have to come first, always, before
Right.
their wives, before their girlfriends, before their partner, the person they're choosing to spend the rest of their life with. It's such a bizarre construct. And so yeah, we talk about that too. Like, you know, just just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I don't understand what all the societal constructs around a man, because we have to understand men to protect ourselves from them.
Right.
As women. So yeah, there's a lot around this conversation, and I don't just work with women. I work with all people, because the way that we as women become safe, or as people who men consider other, and that covers a whole genre, the gals, the gays, and the theys. The way that we all become safe is men being allowed and not allowed, but empowered, allowing each other and being empowered to be human beings and to really understand what that means.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You can't. I think so many things that they've been taught are just these social norms that
Mhm.
blows my mind. I remember talking to somebody and they're just like, "I'm so sorry." It was a guy. He's like, "I'm so sorry, I'm not strong enough," and I'm just like
What?
what? Hey, what are you talking about? Because he was having an emotional kind of breakdown, and I was like, I've never told you to be so strong that you can't cry. I've never told you to do that. And
Yeah.
I think I came to realize that it was a lot of social norms that were taught and majorly perpetuated by other men. It's like
Correct.
bigger
Yeah.
is better, stronger is better. You never need
Yeah.
to show weakness. And
Yeah.
having emotions, feelings, connections, getting down deep. And the sad thing is more guys become extremely psychotic because of that, because they're not sharing their
Suppressing
emotions.
your emotions. Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly.
It can't not explode your mind. Like, I can't imagine not being able to express emotions. That
Right.
building up over years and years and years, of course they become who they become, these balls of anger and hatred towards women. And it's also because they see women being able to express themselves fully, and they want that. They
Yeah.
want that, right? And then at the same time, they're taught to hate it. Right? There's so many things at play at the same time. And so, it's a huge part of designing your life is for men, is to, like, just breathe and feel all the feelings, right? That's a huge part, right? And I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist or any of those things. So I partner with psychologists and therapists. And, as we start to dive into this work, I absolutely recommend for everyone to also be working with a therapist, because things are going to come up and you're going to need help in dealing with them. And having a support system is absolutely necessary.
Absolutely. And let's talk about that too a little bit. You've got some workshops that are coming up here. I'm going to share the
Yeah.
screen. So we've got something coming up in October 22nd, 23rd. You
Yeah.
guys are definitely going to want to check this out
Yeah.
because it's really cool. It's worth every moment that you're going to spend. It's 2-day workshop, and it's going to be, focusing on
Yeah.
basically talking
Yeah.
about today.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you want me to dive in and talk a little bit about
Yeah,
it?
please
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
So there's 6 aspects to life design. And I won't run through all of them here, but we start with talking about mastering intention, getting clear on our intention. We talk about intuition. Each one of these are like separate principles. We talk about setting the stage, writing down the story we want our life to tell. There's all these different aspects that go into it. And each one builds on the next. And we'll go through all of these 6 aspects October 22nd and 23rd. It's split, especially because I know like now, especially people with kids, it's kind of hard to dedicate an entire day. So I decided to split this apart and do it 4 hours each day. We'll be having 1-day workshops coming up at the end of the year. And next year we'll be doing some in person as well if you're in the New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware area. So like there's all these different options. And we'll also be doing the workshops individually, each of the 6 individually for people who can only like really dedicate like an hour and a half to something. So I really try to make it as accessible as possible. And we'll also be having recorded versions so people can do them on their own time. But the whole of it is really starting with getting clear on the story you want your life to tell, and then realizing what that's going to take, how intentional we need to be, and recognizing that our lives are not made up of these big crossroads moments. Our lives are really the culmination of hundreds of small decisions we make every single day. And those small decisions become the foundation for a beautiful life, if we understand that it's about the intention we put into each and every moment. And I say this to people all the time, once you get intentional, and this happens to all my clients, all of a sudden, all these things kind of you start recognizing they don't belong in your life anymore. They don't really have a place. They're not serving you. They maybe never were serving you, but they're definitely not serving you anymore. And there's so much that starts to fall away. Relationship starts to change. The relationships that we have in our life become healthier. And perhaps some we kind of let go of some of those relationships that are unhealthy, that kind of keep us trapped and are holding ideas that are forcing us into these boxes that we've always been in. It's not about doing more. It's about getting more intentional about what we are already doing. And as we get more intentional, we actually start to create more space in our life for the things that we really love and enjoy doing.
It's so true. You have to be intentional about, what what you're getting into and how you want your life to go, because otherwise if you don't, it's just going to go the way it's naturally been going so far. You have to actually make that conscious effort to
Yeah.
make a difference.
Yeah.
So guys, definitely check out that her website, and then also check out her workshop that's coming
Yeah,
up. It's really going to be very important to check that out. And Shannon, tell us a little bit about how you work with clients, and what things you guys, I know you're focused on what they want their lifestyle to become.
Yeah.
And
Hi, honey.
over here. But how does that look like?
Yes. Yeah.
What does that look like?
So typically I work with people through workshops. I have clients who will work through things. They hire me as an interior designer, and we kind of work through life design naturally as part of the process. And then I have a lot of people who just engage with me through workshops. And then at the end of the workshops, they might hire me to be an interior designer. At the end of the workshops, we might just maintain a relationship. But each person engages with me in a different way, but typically it's now kind of starting with one of two ways, either through the workshops or through hiring me as an interior designer. And that is where everything kind of births from, and we kind of grow from there. I don't work with people doing one-on-one coaching. That's really not something that I want to take on, but I have coaches that I partner with who follow the same philosophies that I do. Their work is very similar to mine. And so once people have done workshops, it's kind of the foundation of then the work of then perhaps working with a coach one-on-one, and having that long-term one-on-one relationship with someone. I'm more focused on public speaking events and the workshops. I want to reach a lot of people with this message and be able to dedicate my time to really working with groups of people. There's also something really beautiful that happens in workshops when there's all different kinds of people in the room being able to process information differently. And then that interaction that happens, you can kind of see the way, and people start asking questions in particular ways. And there's this like beautiful energy that happens when you've got like, my magic number is like between 14 and 16 people in a workshop where we can really have these engaged conversations throughout the material.
That's awesome.
Your daughter's hand.
Yeah, I know she's like sticking up here, but that's so awesome. And yeah, I can totally understand because being in a group setting, it helps the energy and it helps to kind of be able to hear what other people are learning from it and all that stuff too.
Exactly.
And so it's completely different. And
Yes.
I think that's really cool that you work in groups versus the one-on-ones.
Yeah, I kind of learned that. I was a semi-professional salsa dancer for 4 years, and I kind of learned that through that process because my dance instructor used to always say, if you really want to get good at something, take the group classes and don't bring a partner and stick with that partner. Do what everybody else is doing and rotate partners because you learn something from each partner, right? And so there's something really beautiful that happens in a group setting. Number one, we start to build community and connections. We start to see things from different perspectives, which is really critical to help us get out of our own head and understand the lived experiences of those around us. That's how we start to build community. And I think more than ever, we're all craving that. Like that true connection, that true community, that person we could call any time of day and be like, can I borrow some sugar? Or like, I'm having a hard day, or like, I had a great day and I just want to tell you about it. Like we need that kind of community. And I think so many of us like have some kind of community, but we don't have that type of community anymore, right? That kind of close knitness where we can really be vulnerable and true and honest and
Exactly.
like, because that's the human experience.
Yeah, so true. It's so true. I mean, you have to have that relationship. And I think in COVID too, we lost a lot of that. It's one of those things that disappeared, and people I sense a major need now are having the trouble of not just getting back to having that group, but what does that look like? What does it look like to have that interaction again?
Yes.
And so
we
many
don't
people
want what we had before. I think we've recognized that what we had before was very, perhaps in some aspects, not in all, but in some aspects, very surface.
Yeah.
And we recognize that when COVID happened, all of a sudden we recognized just how surface it was and how much we deeply needed each other in that moment. And it just became so acute so quickly. Yeah. And so, it was kind of the right time for me to be like, okay, I need to really launch these workshops, because I think as much as I understood it before then, I think some people didn't have a moment to pause and really let it sink in. And then all of a sudden we all did at the same time, unfortunately, and perhaps maybe fortunately.
Yeah, a little bit of both, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's very true. Oh man, thank you so much, Shana, for being here and sharing with us this. You guys definitely go check out her website and go check out, I'll pop that back up here on the bottom of the screen. You can find her on Facebook and Instagram. You can work with her for design, just for all around,
Yeah. And if you want to join, I have an email list that I send out some updates a couple times a month. You can subscribe to that through my website as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just make sure I'm pronouncing this correctly. That for those who are listening, it's www.consign consider it
Consonate. It's consonate that world. Yeah. It's an old English word. It's actually, it's a real word and has a real definition. But it's a defunct word. And the definition is one of my, like, it's one of my favorite words now, but it's not one that's in circulation anymore.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. What is it? What does it mean?
I knew you were going to ask that. So I'm going to keep I'm going to grab it up on my phone real fast. Hopefully dictionary.com does a solid for me and brings it up really quick, because I Google it all the time and I should have it memorized at this point, but I don't yet.
Well, I love how you went and you found something that's different, that's outside of the box.
Solid. I found it. Okay. To arrange or blend together skillfully as parts or elements, put together in a harmonious, precisely appropriate, or elegant manner.
Wow. That's
it's perfect.
Perfect.
Oh, I know. When I found it, I was like, what? This is perfect.
That embodies everything that you're doing. That's great.
I know. Who knew? There was an exact word.
Exactly. That's fantastic. Shana, thank you so much. Are there any last words that you'd like to, any last messages that you'd like to share before we head out for the day?
No, that's it. Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed the conversation, and hi to your daughter.
I know she likes to pop in on a lot of podcasts that we do. So
I love it.
I'm used to it now. So it's great. A little bit of a kid love there. So, but guys, thanks so much for joining in on All Things Fantasy podcast. Definitely go check out Shana's website and work with her. I mean, it's super cool. And show up for those workshops October 22nd, 23rd. You can find it and register for it on her website. So I would highly suggest doing that, guys. And if you have any questions, you can get on her email list and just, really glean some of this major wisdom that's out there and start thinking outside the box. You never know where it's going to lead. And honestly, you might be surprised at at the major debunking that's going to happen in your life. So cool, guys. You take care, and we'll see you back here next time on All Things Boss Babe podcast.